Hello, and welcome to another episode on the Move, Talk, Thrive podcast. Today, Emily and I are so excited to have Mollie-May Bennett here to chat with us. She is a recruiter in the allied health space and helps align people, candidates, applicants with value aligned positions. She has seen the impact of transactional recruitment and she is on a mission to change it. And so we have the best conversation in store for you today. We talk about what sort of questions and things to ask in interviews, what you should be finding out, what really matters to candidates at the moment for those business owners out there, how we can provide value without blowing our budget, creating a sustainable offer for candidates and workplace for candidates where we manage and prevent burnout rather than just throw money and really high expectations at employees. We really focus on making the right decisions, setting our teams and people we're employing up for success, and making sure that we can retain those team members. So I cannot wait for you to listen to this episode today. We got so many gold nuggets out of it, and I know you will too. So here we are with Mollie-May.
We are child development obsessed, business besties, and mums, and we're here to spill all our secrets.
We have a combined 30 years experience working with children, and each episode we will bring you up-to-date research and evidence-based strategies to set your children up to thrive.
I'm Lizzy Dawson, Australian exercise physiologist.
I'm Emily Mackey, Australian speech pathologist,
And this is the Move, Talk, Thrive podcast.
We are so excited to have you here today, Mollie-May. I know this is going to be such a wonderful and insightful conversation. So welcome to our show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's lovely to be here. So I'm in recruitment. I work across the allied health, NDS, and aged care sector, helping OTs, EPs like yourself and Emily. And yeah, I'm just very excited to be here, hopefully share some knowledge. And yeah.
Amazing. What got you into recruitment? Were you in allied health before that?
So no, I dabbled a bit into allied health previously, but I've been across the health sector. So I guess started off in the child, youth, and family space, where I then went into more of the aged care side of things, and then also into nursing and hospitals. So I've really done it all across the health side of things, which is it's been very good in terms of like the sector exposure, learning a lot from lots of different types of clinicians and backgrounds, and hearing stories, and it's all very interchangeable. So different terminology from each industry, but yeah.
Yeah, we do have common themes across each industry, I guess, like health industries. You're our first recruiter on the podcast. We've never had a recruiter come on board. We've had lots of different guests, so it's nice I think our listeners will be thinking, oh, what are we going to talk about in this conversation? But it's nice to dive in with someone a little bit different. Originally, why Lizzy and you sparked our interest and we wanted to get you on was because we saw one of your posts on LinkedIn talking about, I think it was the allied health professionals in general, but obviously it spoke to me and Lizzy and EPs and our speechies. And you were talking about the allied health industry being a little bit cooked. You said cooked in your post.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you, what sort of is your interpretation of what's happening in the market at the moment? What does that mean to you, and what does that look like?
Yeah, I guess we're seeing providers like yourselves really, really struggle with hiring staff. It's no new news. It's always been a candidate short market. However, I guess it's getting harder in terms of that recruitment. I think because of all the NDIS changes, and I think because there's a lot of providers, as I spoke about in my post, sort of going into panic mode, increasing salaries to obtain some of those staff, and then essentially pricing them out the market. And that's from anywhere from new grads right up to experienced OTs, slightly different perspectives as to why they're, I guess, priced out of the market. And really, I guess it's been an education piece for, as a recruiter, to, you know, any candidate that I'm working with, I'm making sure that I'm showing them what the average salaries are across the market right now and why this could be happening, and really setting those expectations from the get-go. Because if I'm working with a candidate and I'm representing them, I need to be putting them forward for what their years of experience are. Of course, everybody wants more money. Everyone wants to have a higher paying salary. You know, it's the cost of living, but it not be completely outside of the guidelines. I think like you previously, like roles, they used to pay from like 85 to 95, like a year or so ago. And now we're seeing salaries sort of jump up to like the 100, 110, just to sort of keep people, and obtain those staff. And it could be that the reason why some of those OTs or speechies are looking to move is because of that workplace culture. So I guess that's where some of the piece that I said in my post comes from. And I think, yeah, look, in the short term it works, but it's created a much larger problem now. Having up these unrealistic expectations just means that we can't match that level of support or structure as well.
I'll just read out your post because I think it's really, really good.
I will give context to what we're talking about.
Yeah, and I think Emily and I, caught, and you got a lot of likes on it. I'm not sure if you get that much interaction usually, but it's got quite a lot of attention. So the allied health market right now is honestly a bit cooked. I'm chatting to OTs and speechies who are on wild salaries because providers went into panic mode to keep staff. And now when they want to leave, they feel stuck because yes, they want the same money in their next role. And the providers out there who actually offer good support, structure, proper supervision, and have teams that won't burn out just can't match those inflated numbers. So what happens? Clinicians chase the cash, realize there's zero support, hate it, and leave anyway. Rinse and repeat. High salary equals no support. High salary equals no sustainability. High salary equals definitely no job satisfaction. Sometimes the best role isn't the one with the fattest pay slip. It's the one where you'll actually grow, stay sane, and not cry into your car steering wheel before and after work. So, I mean, I get goosebumps reading that because it just resonates so much with me, and definitely what I see. And I think Em felt the same way. And then I think you followed me, and I was like, oh, she's followed me. Let's get her on. And we were talking about it. I think you sent it to me, Em, didn't you? And I'd already interacted
We
with
both
it.
had seen it and we were like, we need to get her on.
Oh, amazing. Well, look, I'm so glad it's got that reach, because it's great to sort of be recognized as a recruiter that is speaking of like knowledge and experience. And it's not that getting that amount of likes is nowhere near the amount I've had previously. It's usually max around the 100 mark. So it was really, really good exposure, and also great to sort of be recognized. Like I had a lot of clients subsequently reaching out to me asking to work with me, which is usually a complete flip around from like business development perspective, which was great. And it means that I feel like a lot of providers that resonate with that post means that they can see that I am on the inside and sort of battling and working with them to help support and educate across the sector as well. And equally also, I guess from a candidate perspective, is helping them make the informed decisions, knowing those providers inside and out, and using it as a bit of an education piece so they can really get that insight before going into a business. And it's wise like as a recruiter, we really push to have those meetings, to sit down, to get to know the business inside and out. Why are you struggling with hiring? Why are you, where is the workplace shortage? What do you offer outside of a salary package to support your staff? Like, what's the KPIs? Is it realistic? And I think this is the piece where I guess it's so important to, for providers to make sure that they're making ends meet and having those billables there, but also from a support perspective as well.
So what does a supportive workplace look like? What are you looking for when it comes to sort of culture and supervision?
Or what are
Yeah.
candidates looking for even?
Yeah, look, I think candidates are definitely looking, it depends from the level of experience. Definitely new grads, they are looking for an organization that's got really good structures in place, has that regular one-on-one supervision, and support check-ins. I think it's so important to know what's going on the ground and how they're feeling, because like we see, burnout happens so much across the sector. And I think if you're a new grad and you're coming in and you've got these billable expectations of, like, say 25 KPIs per week, and you're just getting to know the NDIS, it can be quite overwhelming. So I think, regular check-ins and one-on-one supervision is so important. I personally think that there's a ramp-up period's quite good. I've seen a few of the clients I'm working with do that, where they have, like, say, 3 to 6 months, they're getting them up to speed to get up to that 25 KPI. It's not a case that they're trying to have them do that and hit the ground running from the get-go, because we're aware there is a lot to learn and there's a lot of support that's needed.
I did an episode last week on support. Lizzy was off last week, so it was just me talking, but I did one, like, what true support looks like in the workplace. So it kind of is expanding a little bit on what you're saying. So if you haven't listened to that episode, you can go back just to last week.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, definitely give it a listen.
Are there any red flags that you tell your candidates? Like, I was keep saying I'm going to say employees, but they're really candidates, aren't they?
Yeah. So like, some of the stuff that I suggest to new grads is to be aware of, I call it, like, the shiny things. And I guess that's like, if they're putting up their salary, if they're saying, okay, we've got a car for you, we're going to give you a laptop, we're going to give you a phone, you're going to have this amount of support. And especially, like, with like new providers, that they might not have those referrals, they might not have that support there. Like, they're the kind of things that I'm like, just be aware and look out for that, because you could be walking into a workplace that doesn't have that support, and it's quite easy to be sold the dream. And that's not taken away that there aren't providers out there that can offer all of that. But it's definitely something to be aware of, I think, going in, because as I think a lot of providers are probably aware, and business owners, that's quite hard to be able to offer all of those things in a new role to a new grad, if they aren't able to offer that to your experienced clinician, for example.
It's so true, because I mean, I'd speak about my workplace. We have a period of 12 months where they get up to speed and they would have a full caseload. We say 12 months, but it could be 6 to 12 months depending on the person's capacity.
Yeah.
So to offer all of the extra things is a cost on the business that absorb what we absorb, because we're not expecting people to be full or bringing in or meeting their KPIs until that 6 to 12 month period. So in that 6 to 12 month period, it's all about support rather than the shiny things. Yes, the shiny things and the perks are there, but it's about you really honing your clinical skills and getting really strong clinical foundations, so that you can then help or do what you studied to do, as in the case of Speechy, and help children actually make that impact, and then feel confident moving on to having career progression, right, like with a solid foundation, like not having gaps and unknowns and things like that. So I can completely understand
Yeah.
that sort of being a red flag to
Yeah.
say for lack of support. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I
completely.
think, sorry, you go, Mollie-May.
Yeah, I know. I was just going to say that, like, I think that this is kind of the education piece and the mindset shift for new grad OTs is that career progression will naturally come, but you've really, really got to hone in on those clinical skills from the start because it's your foundations, it's the pillars of your future career, and you know, I think. And it's not, and this isn't to say across the board that all new grads think like this, but I think that there is an education piece there that needs to be spoken about across the sector, I'd say.
What are you seeing in terms of like the split between new grads and more experienced practitioners shifting positions at the moment?
Yeah, I would say that look, over the last 3 months, I've definitely seen a lot more new grads wanting to, or not necessarily new grads, but early career clinicians looking to shift. And that is precisely why we're speaking about this, is because they've gone to a business where they were told that they were going to get that support, they were going to get that supervision, and they are burnt out. They just can't, they've not been able to have this ramp up period to feel supported and really hone in on those clinical skills. I think that, and then I guess from a more experienced clinician perspective, just to go back to what I said earlier, is that they're the ones where the providers are looking to keep hold of them, so they have them put their salaries up a considerable amount. Like for example, I spoke to an OT recently that's because she's like a senior OT, and she was on 130, and was not able to move because of the fact that there isn't any experienced OTs that are also at the business. So there's nowhere for her caseload to go, and she's ethically feels as if she couldn't leave that organization in the lurch because she's got a responsibility to her clients. So but to find the role that would have matched that salary match is just it was extremely difficult, and I think that that's because of the market right now. There isn't providers out there that can be jumping up to that high. So yeah,
Maybe a couple of years ago, but I don't think so now.
no,
Even
yeah,
if people could, it is feeling like a lot more of a risk now with so many unknowns in the air with the NDIS. I mean, we're in pediatrics, so I can only speak about pediatrics, but
yeah,
with the NDIS changes, what we've seen so far, and then what's coming, and a lot of it's still unknown, business owners are feeling, do I take that risk or do I not?
I also
No.
think candidates are going to be thinking that way and saying, do I go into pediatrics when there's question marks over it? Like I've got another business that is older populations, and I was talking to one of our other owners, and he said he's seen an influx in applications, and he thinks it's because there's been a max exodus of NDIS people
yeah,
working in those predominantly NDIS businesses because they're just like, oh, who knows what's going to happen in this
yeah.
area.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. And I think from all the conversations that I've been having, like, on a day to day, I speak to a lot of people, and it's everyone is looking to get out of the NDIS. Everyone doesn't want to go to a pediatric caseload, and it's so unfortunate because this is where there is so much need.
Yeah.
But yeah, with the changes, it's either making people hesitant to move, it's not making them want to join that area because they're just like, oh, I've spoken to experienced clinicians and they want out, so why would I join because I'm new? So it's really, really hard.
What's your advice to them?
Look, it's hard to comment, but I think that, the NDIS needs them, and I think that there is a lot that they can learn from joining an organisation, an NDIS organisation. And the market swings back around, things do change. Those changes that come in could be for the better, they could be for the worse. It's unknown, and it's always going to be unknown. But going to an organisation where you are going to have the support, you will feel,
regardless.
regardless, you're going to feel better.
So it's about
And
looking at the support and the culture and those sort of things like the supervision, the meetings, the checking ins,
yeah,
rather than, you know, like really caving to the fear of the unknown. Because really, like I said, I've got an older pops clinic as well, and that is government funded predominantly. Like we've got work cover, NDIS, DVA,
yeah,
Medicare. That can all change as well. Like
I know.
it's just that this particular and I remember because we've got a large DVA contingency in that clinic. And I remember when all this stuff came out about DVA, I found it really hard to recruit because people didn't want to do it. And now we've kind of evened it out with NDIS. But it's kind of like I just think that nothing's a guarantee. And so I feel like I guess what I would say to new grads is maybe go with established businesses that have been around for a while, that have navigated challenges in the past, because they will have the processes and they'll have the experience in pivoting and being able, like, and not stressing, I think, and not making kind of decisions and taking actions based on fear because they've put all their eggs in one basket, I guess.
Yeah, completely agree.
And it's not the need is not going away. So
No.
the number of children that need therapy or pediatrics that need therapy is actually increasing. So
Yeah,
this is where the NDIS is so tricky because it tries to shift the market and make people have one scope of perspective or lens. And it's like, hang on, there's all these children that still need help. Like from a speechy point of view, EP point of view, OT, physio, music therapy, there's still loads and loads of children. There's so many more diagnoses these days than there
yeah.
was 10 years ago. So it's looking at, those sustainable providers of how they're going to help seeing those children, like keep seeing those children. But I
And
guess,
probably the ones that don't have the sparkly things
and the
because they're
super,
staying
super
within
high
budget.
wages. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I think that's the thing. Like, you don't have to underpay. You don't have to pay on the award. You can pay above the award, but you don't need to pay something that's ridiculously high to still, have that impact and to,
And yeah, and I
yeah.
do think another thing that like I say to providers is like, okay, well, look, if you can't afford to add more into their salary, do a sign-on bonus, or have it that they get the first amount when they first start, and then again in 6 months. Like it doesn't have to be reflective in their annual salary. So it's a one-off essentially. If it is that money piece that needs to be included there. But I think for us as recruiters, we're here to find out the information. We're here to ask the questions, and really make sure we're matching workplace fit, not just pay. So I always just ask, like, what's important in your day to day? Like what do you want to be seeing? What kind of clients do you want to be seeing? Like what kind of learning do you want to be seeing? Who do you want to be working off? Is it a case that you want to have a team environment? Do you want to be in a community role? Like these are all things that are important, and can either be yes or no, but then there's also a bit of a grey area in between as well. So I work with some really, really great providers, and it's an education piece to just let them know what's out there and what they could be going to, what they could be supported with. And yeah, and I guess also like what kind of support do you need, like to feel confident in your role? Because I think you could say, okay, they've got one-on-one supervision, they've got this, but how does that clinician learn? And if a recruiter knows their clients well enough, they will know that kind of support and how they communicate as well. So Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good. I think that's a bit of a creative way for employers to, like you said, you don't just have to add it in the salary package, but to be a little bit more sustainable, do you think? If you're trying to attract new recruits, I keep saying new graduates, but it's not new graduates, it's new recruits, new
Mm. Yeah.
employees. If you're
Yeah.
trying to attract new employees, instead of just throwing a higher salary at them, but actually making coming up with a solution that is sustainable in the market at the moment or with the, expectations of the job, so that it does look like an appealing role for someone to come into, right? Are there
And
other things, I guess, that you've seen other business owners doing?
Yeah, like some of our other business owners that I work with, have like a staggered KPI approach, which can work really well. And I guess it's like everything has its pros and its cons. But I guess in the way when I say staggered KPI, what I mean by that is, um, it's reflective of their salary. So say, for example, there was 22K billable hours a week, then there was 25, and then there was 28. That would be then a staggered salary, and they can choose at whichever point to either go up to that or go down to that. And I think that that kind of then puts the ownership on the clinician. But again, to say with the cons of that is people want more money, so they could probably just say that, but then burnout could happen. So there's pros and cons, but I think that the businesses that are doing that right are only looking at doing that, knowing what they've achieved in like the last 6 months, for example, to see if that's doable for them to go up to that next bracket of salary and KPIs, for example.
That's great. That's very creative. What do you think when you're saying burnout? What is it, just the numbers, do you think, that's contributing to burnout? Or what are your thoughts on that?
I don't think it's just the numbers. I think it's definitely like workplace culture. It could be when a clinician is going to the organization that they work for and telling them that they're feeling quite stressed and how that information is received, because then you've kind of it's like anything, right? If you can't express how you're feeling, then you're just going to continue running this steam train until you eventually just burst. But I think that it's hard with the cut of travel and not being able to charge for the same amount of travel that we used to, is that KPIs have had to increase to help business owners. However, I do think that a KPI that doesn't maybe include some down admin time and it is just for the hour that they're seeing the client, that does all contribute because they're working outside of their hours. They've got so much paperwork, they can't keep up with it. And that's, I think, really the domino effect of burnout.
Yeah.
I've just recruited recently, and I feel like there's a very strong interest in the amount of admin time that they're getting, and the notes requirements, particularly in peds, because it's quite hard to do your notes in the sessions.
Yeah.
As I said, I've got that older pops clinic, and it's much easier to have a computer in front of you, still maintain a really good connection and conversation and update your
Mhm.
notes while you're with an adult. But with a child, it just, particularly in a movement setting, which is what we're doing, it's
Yeah.
really quite difficult. So they do need a really good chunk of time to catch up on notes. And so we actually give them, because we bill for notes as well. So that's a billable hour for us. So we count that in billable hours, and then they've got admin on top of that for, outreach to other allied health professionals and parent conversations and all of that sort of stuff. So I think that's definitely been something that I feel like has made my business more attractive.
Yeah.
They're just not getting that admin time in other clinics.
Yeah, agreed. And I think especially, I think this is why a lot of clinicians can be turned off from a community-based role because they're like, oh, I'm going to be on the road for the majority of stuff. When am I going to be able to sit down and have this like downtime to catch up on these notes? Like, is that included? And I do know there are some really great providers out there that factor that in, because it can't be billed for all of this travel, and then how they're reducing it is that they won't travel more than like a 30-minute radius from their home. So yeah, I think it's so important to run that through, and that's where, again, from a recruitment perspective, is us to have those conversations before they go into interview, so that they know what they're fully going to be expected, fully what they're going to expect from going to that provider, and joining that organization, I should say. But yeah, I would, because that saves time for everyone involved, and we all know we all constantly trying to save time. Like, providers are busy, clinicians are busy if they're if they're already in a role. So yeah, it was just like a time
I
perspective
was reading
situation.
something the other day, or maybe a few comments from people, and then also there was a paper about it recently saying that allied health professionals are more prone to burnout because of the amount of face-to-face time we have with people. Like a lot of other jobs, you can be a little bit more flexible and be like, oh, I'll jump in this meeting, or I'll do this here, or I'll change this lunch break. But because of our face-to-face capacity, it tends to be a lot more structured, our diaries, because we can't just be like, oh, hey, I'm not going to see you today, or I'll move you to 10:30, and just, you can't just change that on people last
Yeah,
minute. So that's a
yeah,
big thing with then having the admin time, is there's that balance between having a little bit more flexibility in your workplace or
Mhm.
work day, whatever that looks like, around a lot of that face-to-face time, because that's the billable hours for most people. Like, we do have billable paperwork time, but majority of the chunk. So it's really important that there is a balance there, right?
Yeah, completely agree. And I think that's it. Like you said, it's hard for them to be flexible. Like, they might be, if it is a community-based role, that they've had an admin team book out a car for the full day for them. So it's making
Yeah.
sure that it makes sense, and yeah, from a time perspective point of view, that they do get that then downtime, and that flexibility can still be there. So
Yeah.
um
It's
But you
important.
can't be paying someone 130 grand and make it work. Like that's really tricky, I think.
Mm,
Well,
hmm.
yeah,
it is in my profession. We're not charging as much as everyone else, and
Yeah.
hopefully it doesn't get impacted because we're being reviewed at the moment. But yeah, it just we need to be seeing clients.
yeah,
So it's kind of
yeah.
it's a very tricky balance, I think.
What
Mhm.
would you say to somebody who, if they're in a position right now, because there is a lot of people at the moment, around this period, October, November, December, um, probably more new grads or people looking to shift for next year, if they've just been offered a huge salary in a role, how do they weigh up? Like, if they're listening to this episode, right, and they're like, oh, I've just been offered this huge salary, what do I do? How do they weigh up sort of like the money, and getting stuck, like not getting stuck, versus like that mentorship? Like, what would you say to them?
Yeah, look, I think that I always just go in there, so like, go in, ask all the questions, find out how much supervision you're going to have, who's going to be doing that supervision for you, how do you provide feedback, what is the expectancy for KPIs? Like, if I'm coming in at this salary, and I guess I educate them from a perspective of, have a look at what other providers are paying. And if they are providing that, it is seen as a red flag, for lack of a better term.
Mm.
So, um, yeah, I think that, yeah, I always just say, go in, ask all the questions, get all the information that you need, and weigh it up, do a pros and cons. And that's what we're here for as recruiters, is to run through that with them. Is, even if it's not the role or the organization that I'm representing, um, because I think it's important for us to be like, okay, you've got 3 offers on the table. Yes, this one's paying this amount, but do they have this, and this? You told me that you would really like this, and this. And it's sort of doing that, because I think when people eventually visualize that, they can then see themselves, okay, I actually would have all of this support here. This could be the better option. It is actually closer to home. So why would I, for an extra 5K a year, for example, go for this role, because I'm going to be doing all of that travel? And what does that equate to? What, like $160 extra a week? Realistically, what is that in the big scheme of things, when you could have all of this that you've asked for and that you've told me that you're looking for?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there any red flags with the interview process that you have seen, or would you say to a candidate, like anything about like this is a good interview process?
Look, I think when they do, I guess, jump from one interview straight to an offer, it's
Yep.
of course there's speed to market. Absolutely, I'm not saying that there isn't. It's so important to move fast, because as is a candidate short market, and everyone does get snapped up very quickly. And usually, if it is a new grad, they are exploring multiple roles. However, I think that just casual chats isn't beneficial. There needs to be the operations side as well. And I think making sure that you have those, whether or not it is just the one interview and it's broken down into a casual chat, and a bit of getting to know each other, getting to know that, like, from both perspectives. I always feel like in an interview, and I always say this to my candidates, as much as people are interviewing you, you're interviewing them. It's very much like speed dating. You're sat opposite that person. You're weighing up, is this the right role for me? And I think that when if you've not had that chat and it is very strict and it's just talking about clinical skills, and you've not been able to find out any information from the company, I would say that that is a bit of a red flag. And also on the flip side of that is, if it is just a casual chat and they haven't asked you about clinical skills, they haven't discussed what the expectancy is in that role, then I would say that that's also can be seen as a red flag as
Thank you for
well.
saying that, Molly. That's good. I think that's really good, because I have seen that a lot across our industry in particular, because people are so desperate to hire. There's sort of become a bit of a lack of an interview process. And it's sort of like I have, because I also coach speeches, and I coach new graduates, I coach employees, and I am working through this process with a few of them. And they're saying to me, oh, I went in for a chat or an interview, and then I received an offer like that night. And I'm a bit overwhelmed by it, because it just is moving too fast. And I feel like people are moving out of desperation. And I kind of, for myself, I'm thinking that doesn't sit right with me at all. So I love that you said that.
It's so tempting though. Like, I get it. Like, if I interview someone and I get really excited about them, I'm like, oh, I just want to lock them in.
Yeah.
But I have learned to not do that, because I just think that it's just like, you just need to go through your process, right? Like, there needs to be a
Yeah.
process. It does take a few days to go through that process as well,
Yeah.
like to make sure that you're making a thorough decision, you're doing a reference check, like all of those things. But
And
I
it's,
can see it
yeah.
is tempting, particularly if you
Yeah.
really needed someone.
And I think that this is what, maybe I'm biased because I'm a recruiter, but this is why I think it's important working with a recruiter, because, we're very much there. We're that middle person, right? We're here to represent a candidate, but also represent our client. And we can really be that bridge of having those conversations before that offer comes. And I think that if you're a good recruiter, or you get really good at reading people and knowing when to put the offer in front of them, but also to hold it back, because we pick up on hints. People tell you if they're feeling really overwhelmed. We ask those questions like, how are you feeling? Like, what's actually going on? Have you got any other interviews lined up? And you want to make sure that they're feeling supported, and it isn't just a push and a rat race to get money and contracts in front of people. Because realistically, let's go back 2 years ago, it was always the case that we would have to wait for references first before receiving a contract. And we've kind of skipped the middle piece there. And I think in some circumstances, it's extremely beneficial to have a contract pending references. But also it is important to know to wait for those references, because those references, they're there for a reason. And yeah, obviously the deal's not done until they've got those references back. But I think that, yeah, it's a time piece. Like I've actually had it before where one of like a provider has sent out a contract with and hadn't even kept me in the loop with it, and then the candidates told me, like, I wasn't even expecting to have that, I just received it. And I was like, this is why we're here to talk through, because I would have advised not to send it, to sort of hold off. And yeah, and this is, it's a difficult conversation, because I think that on both sides there's benefits and there's also cons to it as well. And I think there is this constant word of speed to market, got to get it in there quick. And it is important. It's like kind of a buzzword across the industry, but there is also there's a lot of people out there, especially now when like clinicians are so hesitant to move. They are making it's like a chessboard. They are moving and they're really weighing up their options. And I think candidates almost know that they are kind of in the driving seat, whereas before it would have been providers in the driving seat. So it's very much, yeah, waiting and still continuously, always throughout the process, asking those finding questions, because things change, as we all know. Yeah.
And a good part of our interview process that we like I love to do this part, is where they'll come in for a chat with me or Bree, my managing director. But then I say, come back, I want you to have lunch with the team. And I want you to do a couple of sessions, because at the end of the day, I can sit here and tell you anything, like I'm not, but I could.
Yeah.
But, go and talk to the team, because they're the people that you're working with on the ground. Generally, it's not me, because I'm up in doing all the business stuff and, organizing events and things. You're working with the speeches and the admin. It's so important that you gel with the admin that you'll be working with every day, who's organizing your caseload. Go in, have lunch, ask them your questions as well to get their experience, and then meet some parents, like sit in on some sessions. And that's important for them, because we always say it's important that they feel like they're choosing the right role and we're choosing the right role. It's not just us against them.
Yeah.
But also then we
Retention
get a
is
really
so
good feel.
important, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we get a good feel for what they're like, because often in the interview, people come in and they're really stressed or really nervous, and they may not present their best selves. I totally get that. So I'm like, let's do something a little bit more casual, where you may not feel as highly stressed. So we
Yeah.
can sort of have that win. But I always like that part of our interview process.
Yeah, and I definitely say that to providers, because I think that there is that time management, with the fact that quite a lot of these the people that are interviewing people, they also carry their own caseload, right? So they're under a time constraint, so there's a bit of a push for an online interview. Okay, we've got an hour spare here, let's quickly get that in. From both the clinician and the employer. However, I stress that it's so important. Go in. Okay, even if we do this like clinical interview online, there will be a second meeting where you'll go in, you can meet the team, you can sit down, have a coffee.
See the
Yes, like
space.
see the space, like speak to the admin team as well. It's so important, because I think that's when you really get a feel if this is the right environment for you.
Yeah,
It's
really
interesting,
important.
because we do that as well. And I have found not many, but some people have said, no, I can't come in, I'm working, or whatever it is. And I obviously, that to me is a bit of a red flag. So I'm like, oh well, if you don't want to see whether this is right for you, then I don't think you are right for it. But it's
Yeah.
just, it's interesting, isn't it? That You get a lot through, like if you have this multi-stepped approach to recruitment, there's so much you get along the way from it as
Mm.
well.
Mm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's definitely like it's a learning piece, and I think that you understand more. I think that, not a candidate shouldn't be interviewing for like 10 plus places, it's overwhelming, and that's why you can't get in these like chats where you get to meet the team. And that's what we're here as recruiters is it's to educate and sort of narrow down the roles that they've got in front of them for what would make sense in terms of, say, like I always say, what's your main three things that you're looking for when joining an organization, so we can sort of narrow that down. But yeah, if like you just said, Lizzy, it can be seen as a red flag from an employer if they're like, oh, if they're not going to come in and meet us. Like, I've definitely had some of the clients I work with tell me that they're like, well, then we don't really, well, it's probably not the right fit for us, because we're making this time out of our day to accommodate for this. So it should happen, and that's why I do think it's so important that this narrowing process, and there is that education piece right at the start from a recruiter's perspective to clinicians, to make sure that they're not interviewing for absolutely everywhere. And we definitely see it across the industry where people try and push for them to go for a role, and it's like, no, that absolutely did not make sense. It's not the right caseload for them. It's not where their background is. It's not what they're passionate about. So yeah, it's important for myself as a recruiter to make sure that that education piece is there from the very get-go, so that that does allow for time to be able to go in and have these chats and really get to know the organization as well.
It's so important, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you had, I guess, one last piece of advice that you could give to everyone listening, I guess, because the majority of your post was about choosing a good job or like a supported job over a high salary. What's one more piece of advice or last piece of advice you'd give to anyone listening?
Yeah, I would just, like I said earlier, I would just say ask all the questions you could possibly ask.
Mm.
It is a two-way street. You are trying to find out if this is the right fit for you. And don't just look at don't just look at the paycheck. It doesn't tell you the full story. It ask, like you just said, Emily, is go in, speak to the clinicians that are working on the ground. They're there, they're running a caseload themselves. They know what supervision they're getting. And yeah, I think just stay educated. You've just come from education. If this is a new grad, you've come from education. Soak up as much information as you possibly can in the recruitment process and beyond, once you're hired and you're working for hopefully a brilliant organization.
Awesome. I think you've given so many good insights today on
Oh, I hope so.
interviews
So
for
much.
business owners, employees. We really appreciate your time and just for being so honest and coming on and sharing your thoughts. It's nice to talk to a recruiter who I feel is maybe a bit more balanced.
Thank you. Well, that is what I try and preach, is that I'm not here just to push anything down you. I'm here to really listen and get to know and understand. I think it's so important, especially
Mm,
across the allied health sector, and DAS and aged care as well.
yeah.
So.
If anyone wants to connect with you, where can they find you?
So you can find me on LinkedIn. I work for Brightside Recruitment, and we've also got a company website which you can have a look and see all the services. A few of the guys here at Brightside are also across the child, youth, and family space. So if you're ever needing any assistance there as well, if you're a social worker, if you're a counsellor, psychologist, whatever it might be, we're fully just a welfare recruitment organisation. So we'd be more than happy to help and lend an ear and hopefully point you in the right decision.
Sounds awesome. Thank you so much, Mollie-May. We've so enjoyed this conversation.
Sounds good.
If you're listening to this and you know a speechy or an EP or a colleague that would benefit from listening to this chat, please share the episode. And we'd also love to hear if you have any questions or feedback. And if you've loved Mollie-May, you can connect with her on LinkedIn. And until next week, we will talk to you soon and have a great week.
Thank you so much, guys.